Well, welcome to The Writer Reads Chronicles of a Dark God, Book 2, Dark Gods Rise, Chapter 33, The Older Deities Advise. Looking around the hall, Adriel saw the elder gods shift with discomfort at his question. Sadness crossed the speaker's features. We could not, he answered simply. Adriel's brow furrowed. But why not? He said. You knew, and we saw you rising to power, the elder god admitted. We saw how mortals worshipped you and turned from us and knew our time was at an end. So we withdrew. You left? Adriel asked in disbelief, and the feeling of sorrow coming from the speaker intensified. It inclined its head. We left, and to prevent our return and remove the temptation to meddle in affairs that were no longer ours to rule, we built the wall that surrounds our realms. Adriel shuddered, but the speaker continued as though he hadn't noticed. It blocks us from your realms and the world that was once ours. We cannot cross it or see beyond or scry past it save at times when something connects your world with our own. Outside those times, your world does not exist for us, except for this. Adriel looked toward the rear wall of the hall. Only now did he notice the empty seat that stood there. He did not ask who should occupy it. He was too busy staring at the image behind it. A great gemstone perched on a pedestal made of strands of precious metal intertwined. It stood upon an island of striated rock, surrounded by a well filled with decay in every putrescent form decay was known to take, and a few Adriel did not recognize or care to. An aura of death hovered above the well, surrounding the gem at its pedestal and creating a curtain of unlife that extended well past either. Surrounding this was a garden where creatures formed from the other elements and their sub-elements roamed. The elements of nature made up the main portion of the garden, peopling it with plants and animals to alert guardians Adriel suspected had passed away an age ago. Watchers from the elements of water trickled through the area in shallow streams, or rested in quiet pools, but he saw none among them that could be called a guardian. Adriel turned from the picture. What am I supposed to be seeing? He asked. Look closely at the gem, the spokesman told him. Tell me what you observe. As if obeying an unspoken instruction, the image focused on the gem, letting its surroundings fade from view. Adriel studied it intently and soon saw what had alarmed the elder gods. The stain spreading below its surface was hard to see, but once noticed it was obvious. It spread across one of the gem's rough-cut facets, staining the edges of a deep score marring the facet's center. Studying the rough, dark line it made, Adriel decided it looked as if it had been inflicted from within rather than without. The more he looked at it, the more it looked as if some great beast had been trying to dig its way out, using a single claw only. Adriel stepped closer to the picture, his brow creasing with the thought. One finger crept up to rest its tip at the corner of his mouth, something he always did when puzzling something out, but something he never noticed. Neither did he notice the ripple of amusement that passed through the gathered elder gods as they observed him. The more he looked, the more obvious it became that the score line was narrower on the surface of the gem and had a broader expanse of darkness beneath it, suggesting more width below. Now, how could that be? Stepping right up close to the image, he climbed onto the seat that stood before the wall. He didn't notice the ripple of uncertainty that flowed through the gathering, nor did he see the calming gesture the spokesman made to settle his compatriots. Looking past the floor, he tried to see what lay inside the gem. Something swirled in the gem's depths, something evil, powerful, and more devious than any of the demons inhabiting the 9 hells. Was this the elemental lord of power? He paused, an old saying springing unbidden to his mind. Power corrupts, and total power corrupts totally. Is that what happened here? He frowned. It was an interesting thought. He shook it from his mind, focusing again on the flaw in the gem. His closer inspection revealed many fine lines scoring the inside of the facets surrounding the line beneath the stain. Studying where the stain had spread, he noticed more faint scratch marks underscoring everywhere the stain touched. Taking his finger from his mouth, he leant on the stone at the base of the image, staring more deeply into it and drumming his fingers on it. Sighing, he slowly turned to face the elder gods. I see some major flooring, he told them, and there are many hairline fractures scoring the gem's surface as well as a deeper crack that seems to originate from within the gem itself. I doubt even I could repair that. And, the leader of the elder gods prodded, I can't see how the deterioration is being facilitated, but it will soon compromise the integrity of the prison. The prisoner will soon be free. Yes, the speaker god agreed. We think it will only take him another 500 years if he waits, a mere instant if he finds a magician with sufficient arcane connections. Adriel's eyebrows rose. A magician? He asked. And has he found such a one? Only one, the speaker replied, and she is currently beyond his reach. There are others, but he has yet to discover them. Is that the only way? Adriel demanded. The speaker sighed. No, he replied, there is one other way. And that is? Adriel pressed. If he gathers enough magicians together and sacrifices them simultaneously, he could also use their accumulated power to break the gem structure now that he has weakened it. And the other barriers? Adriel asked, dreading the answer. Those have only been placed to keep summoned aid out, the speaker replied. That is what I was afraid of, Adriel answered. Surely there are still elemental creatures in the world. There are, the speaker confirmed, but their ability to help has been limited. We have forbidden them from interfering with great affairs to mortals. Any who do so are forced to become dormant for 100 of your world's years. It is a decision we're coming to regret. I see, Adriel said. I think this has been the fate of some already. When? The speaker demanded. What enticed them to interfere? Our agents rescued a wizardess and her apprentices from the Old One's chosen high priest. The Old One sent his minions. A gasp interrupted him, and he stopped. What is it? You said the Old One sent minions, the speaker replied. Could you tell us the form these minions took? Certainly. They were perverted forms of elementals, great twisting columns of filthy air and warped creatures of earth. They almost captured our chosen agent, his companions, and those they rescued. What happened? The speaker sounded almost breathless. We, the current pantheon that is, were gathering our power to rescue them, when there was a sudden roar of wind, the earth rolled and thundered, there was a blinding flash, and the sky was swept clean. I'm still not sure what we saw, save that I think they were the greatest creatures of earth and sky that I have ever witnessed. Was that all? The speaker pressed. I think there were others involved, for I sensed heat and moisture within the light, but I cannot be sure, Adriel continued. I do know that they struck, cleansed the land, and were gone. There was a moment's silence, and then the speaker spoke. They lie dormant now, he added in bitter tones. What were they? Adriel asked. They were elemental lords, the speaker told them, the most powerful of their kind and the closest thing to us in nature. There are not many of them in existence. They were brave. And they suffer punishment for nothing, another voice put in, and Adriel looked toward it. It was the woman whose contours flowed and shifted. Her skin, as well as her all-concealing hair, was every shade of water, and not just every shade of the ocean. Her voice held the merry burble of streams and the crashing roar of the coastal seas. The speaker sighed his regret. Yes, he said, but we miss the point. While Shira can summon his minions, and he has raised a high priest to perform his sacrifices and lead others to serve him, he has been far more patient than we gave him credit or capability for. The power spent in those actions alone could have shaved 100 years from his escape. Unless he would not have had access to the power needed to fuel that escape without raising a priest, Adriel pointed out. This is true, the speaker replied, and Adriel saw some of the tension leave his form. At least then we have the answer to the sudden growth in his power. For now he has those, the liquid lady added. The years he has lost will be more than accounted for. Who is this high priest that he has raised? The king of Toromar, Adriel replied, and was met by sounds of dismay. King? The speaker asked. Yes. Then we are in more trouble than we knew, the speaker said. How powerful is this king? He rules a kingdom built on a backbone of mercenaries and clothed in agriculture, Adriel answered, and he used his mercenary armies to further extend his power. Even now, other lands fall to the forces they hire for self-protection. Those forces also work to destroy our own centers of power. They destroy our temples and slaughter our priests in sacrifice, and now I begin to understand why. This is grave news indeed, the speaker replied. The elemental lords will involve themselves in matters of this scale. They will not be able to resist, especially once they become aware of whose forces they truly face. He rose and began to pace. There must be a way to raise the spell of dormancy from them. Again, the Lady of Water intervened. There is. Adriel saw the other deities stiffen, their faces and forms filling with apprehension. And how could this be? The speaker asked in tones of foreboding. The lady favoured him with a slight smile. I foresaw darkness on the horizon of the world's future, and thought the mortals would one day reach a time when they would need elemental aid once more. So I spoke with the great lord, the lord of magic, and he agreed. He did? Yes, the lady replied. With his permission I She cleared her throat and gestured toward the lords of nature, decay, and the essence of life. I mean, we made a spell to lift the consequence of dormancy from those not yet affected by it. We also consulted with the great lord, and he gave us permission to make a potion that would, when poured over a lord in dormancy, grant him direct access to the elemental plane of his origin. Adriel gasped. But that would make them like gods. The Lady of Water smiled. And this troubles you? She challenged. Only their continued travel in the realm of mortals troubles me, Adriel answered, for it would upset the balance, as much as any of my pantheon taking up permanent residence there. That is what we thought also, the goddess agreed. So we gave the potion the power to change the nature of the Lord, in effect giving them the power of gods and banishing them to existence on their elemental planes. What do you mean by the power of gods? Adriel asked. Why, the ability to have mortal servants, and to give those servants a portion of power each day in order to take care of their affairs in the mortal realm, the goddess replied. No more power than any of your pantheon would grant or wield themselves. Adriel subsided, but his mind was reeling. There were to be new gods? In his pantheon? He shook his head as if that would dislodge the puzzlement he felt. What then of those who already rule the elemental planes? He asked. The goddess looked surprised. Do you mean to say that Adriel, god of secrets and puzzle solving, has not already worked out what I am saying? She asked, and amusement curled through her words. Yes, Adriel admitted, flushing with embarrassment. Merriment chuckled through her tones, as happy as the laughter of any brook or stream, and then she explained. I am telling you, there are no current lords of the elemental planes. There are no elemental gods, she told him. We abandoned our planes along with the world. It was not seemly that we should look upon a world where we had given up the right to rule. We built this land instead. You abandoned your realms? Adriel was shocked. Who protects them then? We left guardians, she told him, then changed the subject sternly. But this is of no consequence. We have more important matters at hand, Lord Speaker. The potions, the speaker said. You can give them. I have them here already. The lady's voice was cool with amusement. Very good, the speaker told her. Now, Lord Adriel, how do you propose mending Walshira's prison? Adriel gaped at them, then abruptly closed his mouth. Don't you know? He asked, and the elder gods shook their heads as one. I am afraid we do not. Then I am afraid I have bad news for you, Adriel explained, for that kind of damage cannot be polished to its former integrity. I would say it cannot be repaired at all. You would have to replace the gem. He paused, seeing the flaw in his plan. The old one can be contained for transference, can he not? Momentarily, the speaker replied. You would need to replace the gem, and for that you would need interference from at least one other elemental lord, Adriel finished for him. Would there be another yet willing to make the sacrifice?